It is a good to have this immigration law. So many people came over here and just paying no tax if they are not legal citizen.
Arresting someone just under suspicion that they might be illegal is just profiling.
All right, two different opinions here, and certainly we're getting the impression on our phone lines a lot of lack of unanimity. I'm going to bring our panel back in, and Dominic, I'm going to run through some of the poll numbers. Then these questions were asked before the ruling today for the Supreme Court, and you and Andrew jump in, and obviously there's political context to this in the election year, especially given some of the statements Romney made in some of those primary debates, which, okay. When asked if the Arizona immigration law goes too far, not far enough, or about right, here were the poll numbers. The dominant answer was people thought it was about right, but then you got about a third of the people who thought it went too far. Next, they were asked about what should happen to immigrants, legal immigrants, stay and apply for citizenship, stay as guest workers, or must leave the U.S. I think this is an interesting number here. When you combine whether it's guest workers or apply for citizenship, you got about 2/3 of the respondents there, and only a third saying they want mandatory deportation or voluntary deportation, as we heard in some of those aforementioned primaries. And finally, when asked who ought to make the laws, this was a little surprising to me. The court clearly today said it's the job of the federal government, not state by state here, to decide basically what they want to do. They thought it should be a combination of the two, and again here you can see the numbers for yourself, how they break out. Dominic, put this in a political context today. The president, as we know, last week he pushed the DREAM Act here, and obviously there wasn't agreement on the Republican side of the aisle, at least from the presidential hopeful Mitt Romney. And you also know about what Romney said about the voluntary deportation, etc. How does today's ruling play in as it relates to November?
Well, I think the expert on the issue was 1,000% correct when he said it's you didn't use the word resounding, I will, but a major victory for the Obama administration. 3/4 struck down, and the controversial part that stays, that's even still on the table. It still may go before the court, my understanding, based on how it's enforced. Right. So he could win, he could sweep across the board, and he's already carrying, he being President Obama, already carrying Latinos by a majority.
But would he have done better, Andrew, rallying the base if this thing was actually upheld? And then he said, hey, listen, I got an out-of-control Supreme Court here, and I've got, obviously, you know, rogue governors like Jan Brewer and the rest out there. This is what we're going with. If the Latinos base are saying they're going to vote for him, but they'll be much more vote-motivated if this thing was actually struck down. Would he have done better today if he had lost?
I don't think so, because you know, I think it would have been seen as something of a slap in the face, as the court saying, you know what, you know, we upheld this law because the federal government isn't doing anything. That puts all of it on him. And as the way it came down, I'm not sure this is a resounding victory for the president either. In the details, I think it is, but in terms of the top line, the headline, it's going to come out as a split decision, both sides claiming victory. I don't think that's necessarily
it's not a split decision.
But it was in terms. I mean,
what you're looking at is spin.
But you look at the networks and how they reported it when it first came down, and it was split decision. It was throw out parts of the law or uphold part of the law. So it's not a clear-cut win for the president, and anything short of clear-cut, I think, hurts.
Yeah. Thursday.
We'll get to that. Don't you jump the gun.
Okay. Thursday.
Killing me.
Thursday.
All right, let's go to the phone lines here, and guys, jump in as you will. We got two Michaels that we're going to start with two very different opinions on the law that was in Arizona, I should say. Let's start off with Michael calling us from Long Island. Michael, you're on the line. Did the court get it right today or not?
Yeah, I think they're right. They got it right because, you know, this country, we're worrying more about people coming in than why don't we worry about the people's rights that are here, you know? I mean, my sister works in a hospital. They bring people in. Oh, American guy goes there with family. You got insurance? Well, they try this. I mean, it's ridiculous. You don't like the rules of my country, then leave. Nobody's forcing you to come here.
Love it or leave it. Michael calling us from Philadelphia. How about you, Mike?
Yes, sir. Well, I think this immigration law is just about profiling, but the whole real reason is the whole problem is economics. Because if it wasn't for the aliens that come here and work on these for less than minimum wage and work on these construction sites and on these farms and agriculture, where do you think the recession would be at today? It's just as bad. How bad would the United States economy be if they didn't have slavery for over 100 years? So it's all economic. I think it's racial profiling, and it's wrong.
Well, and the economy certainly gets people looking for reasons, looking for easy-to-grasp solutions or answers, and this is one of them. And you heard from both of our callers some sympathy for the law itself, and we saw from the poll numbers there's sympathy for the law and some support for the law. So, you know, I think this is not a slam dunk for the president by any stretch of the imagination. Also, I think it's interesting, Mitt Romney really didn't give his take on how it went, so it's not necessarily helping Romney.
But he's going to have to. And for me, there are a few bright lines in what has been, I think, curious campaigning by both camps here in a little bit, where they're raising record sums, but they're not saying anything, okay? But I think in this particular case, exactly, but even more so than other races. I mean, even more so now. And to that end, Romney's going to have to say if he thought the Supreme Court got it wrong. He's not going to be able to avoid that by Sunday. He's going to have to, give some soundbite in one shape or form. And I'd only say this one point to some of the callers who say they're stealing jobs. Please, forget what I have to say or anyone else. Look at what the agricultural community in this country has to say, and some of those conservative red states are going to find. Nobody wants to work those fields here in 105 degrees, picking fruit here or picking cotton. Okay? People are doing those jobs that Americans don't want to do, and don't believe me, do your own due diligence online. Okay. Were you surprised that it was 5-3? And we're going to get into some other decisions that were even 5-4. And for me, I didn't really see the big debate as to where any form of constitutional reading here would have given Arizona the rights to do what they did. Forget about people if they're conservative, liberal. This was a state and a federal rights issue. I didn't think it was a close one. Were you surprised 3 justices said Arizona could have done what they did?
No, because the counter-argument is a straight federalism argument, which is a pet issue for Scalia and Thomas, so you know where they're going to go. Alito is a result-oriented judge. He likes the Arizona law, so you know he's going to uphold it. It would have been 6-3, but Kagan recused. So I don't think it was close legally. Along ideological lines, Scalia and Thomas are a given against. Alito, because of the result, is a given against. It really wasn't close legally, I got to tell you.
Can you, and again, I don't want to go where Dominic's going. He wants to already talk about health care for Thursday, but
well,
are you starting to get a reading? Well, that was it. And because we already know that on Thursday, Justice Roberts is going to be delivering, I guess, the majority opinion here.
Has he said that?
We
were talking about this before.
And you read the tea leaves.
I think it's going to be upheld. Yeah,
does the court put out a decision on, let's say, a Monday when they know they've got, the overhand on Thursday, that they'll throw a bone maybe to somebody because Thursday they're not going to like what they're going to get?
First of all, they horse trade and swap about what's important to them. I can attest to that from personal experience. But this could go one of 2 ways, in my view, vis-a-vis healthcare. The same issue is at play here, albeit under a different provision of the Constitution, and that's federalism, federal power versus states' rights. This is a very pro-federal decision, which on its face would seem to indicate we'll have a similar result for healthcare. But given that they engage in horse trading, this could be a sop to Obama, giving them political cover if they slam him on Obamacare. So it could go one of 2 ways.